So thank you all for joining us today. My name is Jonathan Gendler, and I'm a board member with the Toronto chapter of the Canadian Friends of Peace Now. To those of you who don't know, our organization is the Canadian partner of Peace Now, Shalom Achshav, which is Israel's leading peace movement and promotes the two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. You can find much more about us in our website, peacenowcanada.org, in one word. We really hope to consider supporting us with a donation, which you can do through our website. We entirely rely on your donations and individuals like you who support us. So thank you for considering it. Just a few logistic remarks. After the first short presentation by Mohammad, we will have time for audience questions. We're inviting you to type your questions at any time during the presentation using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. Just note that the chat feature has been disabled, and if you do want to engage in a discussion or a debate, we do invite you to visit our Facebook page of Canadian Friends of Peace Now. Social media is the right place to have such discussions, and we welcome them. When you write the questions, and if you wish, please tell us where you're coming from, and please try to make your questions as concise as possible. So today's topic is, does building shared society within Israel help promote a two-state solution? As you've seen, our webinar is recorded and will be posted to our website probably in the next few days. So we are extremely honored to have our special guest today, Mohammad Darawshe. Mohammad is a community leader, an educator, and expert on Jewish-Arab relations. Currently, he is the Director of Strategy at the Center of Shared Society at Givat Chaviva, the most veteran institute in Israel promoting reconciliation between Jews and Arabs. He holds a master's degree in peace and conflict management from Haifa University, and is a Robert Bosch Academy Fellow and faculty member at the Hartman Institute. Previously, he worked as co-director of the Abraham Initiatives, elections campaign manager at the Democratic Arab Party and United Arab List, and he was a leadership fellow at the New Israel Fund. Welcome, Mohammad. Please give us your overview of today's topic.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thanks for Peace Now and Gabriela for giving me this opportunity to be among people that still seek peace. It seems that our numbers have shrunk in the last elections. But you know, the fat lady didn't sing yet. We are still at it. First of all, before we move into how working for shared society contributes to the Israeli-Palestinian peace, I think we need to try to define what is the meaning of shared society. In Israel, there are two debates regarding the status of Arab citizens in Israel. One is a political, constitutional identity debate. I would characterize it as, whose state is it? Is it the state of the Jews, or is it the state of the Israelis? There's a significant majority among the Jewish population that wants it to be the state of the Jews only, and downgrade the status of Arab citizens to less than that of Jewish citizens. That's what the nation-state law, which passed 3 years ago, tried to do. And that's the case also with about 27 laws that exist in the Book of Laws in Israel that see the Arab citizens as second status citizens, such as the citizenship law, such as the Nakba law, such as the acceptance committee's law. 28 laws in the Book of Laws in Israel are discriminatory in their nature based on your ethnic identity, and the state of Israel and the Jewish majority in Israel feels okay with it. So when we speak about shared society, we need to break that hierarchy that is being created, specifically being promoted since Netanyahu came on the scene in 1996 elections, when he defeated Shimon Peres. And his first campaign was, if you all remember, was Bibi or Tibi. basically, whether you vote for Benjamin Netanyahu, that's Bibi, or if you vote to anyone else, including Labour Party or any other parties, actually you're voting for Ahmed Tibi, who's an Arab member of the Knesset, as if he becomes part of government in Israel. And he wanted to delegitimize Arab political participation, and later with time also to shrink Israel's reality to fit the Jewish size only and not to fit the Israeli size. So basically the state of Israel says to me today, I'm the state of the Jewish people, I'm not your state. You happen to be here, but you're not part of national priority. So the first thing that we need to accomplish when we speak about shared society is challenge that delta that the right wing in Israel is trying to create between the Israeli and the Jewish nature of the state of Israel. On the Arab side, some people say, no, we need to cancel the Jewish nature of the state of Israel and actually go for a state for all of its citizens only, and eliminate the national project that the Jewish people worked for, which is the creation of a homeland for the Jewish people. In my view, the resolution for this matter is actually a combination of these two things. Israel can be at the same time the state of its citizens and the state of the Jewish people. Israel is not the only nation state in the world. Israel and the Jews did not invent nationalism and did not invent nation states. And all of those states, all of the nation states, the modern ones, that accept the principles of liberalism and democracy, adopted the status of national minorities for the groups that do not subscribe to the ethnic identity of the majority population. So Israel did not invent the wheel by inventing nation state. And as such, it will not be inventing the wheel by inventing a status of a collective status for Arab citizens as a national minority as well. The second arena where there is a debate about shared society is between citizens, not between the state and the Arab community, but between Jewish and Arab citizens in the state of Israel. The policies of discrimination and marginalization and containment of Arab citizens have resulted with very severe separation. You see it in two main areas. One main area is in the residential structures. 92% of Arab citizens live in separate towns and villages. 92% of Jewish citizens also live in separate Jewish towns and villages. And only about 8% are in mixed cities. And those mixed cities are usually separate neighborhoods. The separation is much worse also when you go to the educational system. Out of 4,800 schools in Israel, there are only 7 mixed Jewish Arab schools, and about 1,000 that have what we call cross-sector teachers from the other side working on those schools. The rest of the program is segregated. When we talk about encounters between Jewish and Arab youth, I'm still in education, less than 0.5% of Israeli Jewish and Arab kids engage in encounters during their study, and it's usually engineered encounters through organizations such as Givat Chaviva, and it's not something built into the system that the students and the teachers and the principals can reach out in order to bring this experience of getting to know your fellow citizens. When we speak about shared society, again, how do you equip yourself with the tools to live in a shared society? So for Arab citizens, we know that we need to study Hebrew, and about 100% of Arab citizens study Hebrew, but only 17% of Jewish citizens study Hebrew. In a shared society, you need to come to bilingualism as much as you can. And only, as I said, only 17% of Israeli students take a shot at it without any true encouragement of the educational system in this regard. When we speak about shared society, it also on the horizontal approach, not the debate over identity, but the issues, the social, economic, cultural, educational issues. We need to also not talk about relations between Jews and Arabs. We also need to talk about equality. So, some people mistake shared society with the term coexistence, where we eat hummus together. As in North America, you say apple pie, you eat apple pie together and you enjoy each other's company. In Israel, we do it with hummus. So we can enjoy each other's company, but that is not shared society. Shared society has to include components of equality, so that those interactions between the Jewish and Arab citizens actually lead to more legitimization of Arab citizens politically and to more opportunities in the social and economic and educational and cultural arenas. We have managed to accomplish some successes in this regard. So if you go to the medical industry, you see that almost 1/3 of the medical industry in Israeli hospitals, almost 1/3 are Arab citizens. In the high-tech industry, it's going there slowly. Today, we are about 7%. 7 years ago, we were only 1% of the high-tech industry. It's happening in universities. 20 years ago, we were only 3.5% of the student population in Israeli universities. Today, we are 20% of the student population, and so on. There are a number of examples that show that on the horizontal level, there are more islands of success, of integration and opportunities where the Arab citizens are experiencing the Israeli integration, but also the Jewish citizens are experiencing an evolving Israel that has space for Arab citizens. A university with 20% Arab population is not the same university with 3.5% Arab population. A company with 7% high-tech employees is not the same culture of a company with only 1% Arab employees. So those things are also causing not only Israelizations of the Israelization process of the Arab citizens, but an Israelization process of the Jewish citizens as well. Now, when we talk about the Palestinian aspect, how can this shared work, shared society, equality and good relations, how can that promote peace with the Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza and maybe outside? I always like to say that, if Israel can prove that the Jews came to the Middle East in good intention, and they can prove it in square one, which is inside the state of Israel, in its relationship with its own Arab citizens, where it has no UN overruling it, it has no EU, it has no other laws. Israel created the laws, created the mechanisms, has the police, has the Ministry of Finance. It has absolute power in managing its relationship with the Arab citizens. And if it can prove that Jews came really to the Middle East to live in peace and harmony and equality, as promised in the Declaration of Independence, this will be the best export of Israel to the Arab world. The message of peace, and not the message of discrimination, and not the message of marginalization, and not the message of delegitimization of Arab citizens in the country. The Arab citizens of the State of Israel are usually the first Palestinian that Israeli Jews meet and have the opportunity to meet. We can meet in a shopping mall, we can meet in the market, we can meet in the cinema, we meet at universities, and we work on the buses and in the workplace. And that allows the process of socialization, what's called in social contact theory, what's called the social contact theory, which results usually with humanization. So the more interactions between Jewish and Arab citizens we can get, the more the social contact theory can produce more humanization of the Palestinians in the eyes of Israelis. And the Arab citizens can carry that message also across the Green Line to their Palestinian brethren in the West Bank and Gaza. Just to give you an example of how strong those ties between the Arab citizens of Israel and the Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza, we're talking about more than 35,000 cross Green Line marriages between Arab citizens and Palestinians from the West Bank and Gaza. So you have a lot of families, almost 20% of Arab families have immediate family member, first cousin or first kin that live across the Green Line. And positive experiences in socialization are also going to be transcend across the border. I'll give you an example. In one of the holidays, Muslim holidays, a Jewish family came to visit me to pay respects and greet me for the holiday. And my parents-in-law, my wife is from East Jerusalem, my parents-in-law were also visiting us. This was their first ever social interaction, sitting at the same dining room table with a Jewish person. And when our Jewish guests left, they asked, how come they come? Aren't they afraid? Why do we accept them? Why do we receive them? This experiment, if we can transcend it through the Arab students that study in the West Bank, and we're talking here about almost 8,000 Arab students that study in the West Bank, they can bring the real Israel story and not a distorted story that usually gets distorted by bad media that might cross the green line. In addition, Arab citizens, as being part of the Palestinian people, they can engage in dialogue/debate with Israeli Jews in Hebrew to talk about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, so that they have a debate partner, they have a dialogue partner that can tell them the story of the Palestinians, that can tell them the need of the Palestinians, that can express in front of the Israeli Jews, whether it is in personal interaction or it is in media or in conferences. The Palestinians, I think they made a mistake in 2016, and they adopted a policy which is called Stop All the People-to-People Interactions. They don't want any dialogue with Israelis. They want a political framework, a diplomatic solution of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict first, and then they would allow socialization and interaction between people to people. That was the position of the Palestinian Authority. It trickled down very, very well. And as such, there's almost no cross-sector dialogue between Israelis and Palestinians. And the Arab citizens of Israel, being Palestinians themselves, can actually engage in this process in trying to open the eyes of Israelis about the needs of the Palestinians and how to also talk about the situation in the Palestinian side, whether it is the humanitarian situation or the political situation. The last thing that the Arab citizens can get engaged in is what we call the superordinate goal theory, basically developing mutual interests. I think that, I said at the beginning, that Arab citizens can be the best ambassador of Israel to the Arab world if they feel comfortable in Israel. But not only that, we know that Arab towns and villages are adjacent to each other, and if inside Israel, and if we can develop mutual interests, mutual projects, that we can experiment peace in reality. We can develop joint soccer fields, we can develop shared bicycle paths, we can develop shared industrial zones that joining adjacent municipalities can benefit from it. And the more we can create those islands, the more we can reduce the fear that exists in both sides from each other. Now, then we come to the question, do Arab citizens have the capacity really to play this role to its utmost? The answer is no, not to its utmost. The Arab citizens have not assumed a meaningful role in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict since 2016, since the Palestinians split between Hamas and Fatah. And the Arab citizens sort of saying, okay, we are waiting for the Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza, in the Palestinian Authority, to get their act together. And until then, we are not sure we want to take sides. So some do take sides. Some of the political movements in the Arab community do take sides, but the massive majority does not take sides. And actually, the massive majority of Arab citizens are taking less and less of political role. And that's exemplified in the turnout rate in elections. Just let's remind ourselves that in 1999, 23 years ago, the turnout rate among Arab citizens to elections was 78%. 78%, that produces almost 19 seats in the Knesset. And the last elections, it was only 53%, and it produced only 10 seats in the Knesset. So there's an untapped potential, untapped political potential in the Arab community, with addition of 9 seats potentially to the center-left bloc in the Israeli Knesset, which will be sufficient to block a right-wing government, as it happened during the Rabin period, as it happened when Barak also ruled, and as it happened with Naftali Bennett and Yair Lapid. So those situations did happen in the past. Rabin ruled in Israel for 3 years, and then 1 more year with Shimon Peres as prime minister depending on the Arab political parties, 61 versus 59 to the right wing. And that was sufficient for them to be able to maintain a peace-directed government. So if we are able to find the formula that encourages more Arab citizens to re-engage politically in Israeli politics, 9 extra seats to the 56 seats that the center-left bloc has gives us the 65 versus 55 seat majority in the Knesset. Without bringing those 9 additional seats hidden in the Arab community, I doubt that the Israeli center-left can come back to power and can introduce a center-left or peace agenda. We saw that when Naftali Bennett was in the government, he did not lead the peace agenda. We need the true center-left in Israel in relationship with the Arab citizens to create that solid majority that is committed to move towards peace. Still, the Arab citizens are always concerned about what's in it for them. Oslo agreements had a very significant impact on Arab citizens. Oslo agreements basically say to Arab citizens, you may have thought that you are part of the conflict. True, you are part of the Palestinian people. You are discriminated against by Israel because you are an extension of the Palestinian people, because many Israelis still see you as part of the enemy and do not want to engage you in decision making and are willing to create laws and legislate laws that are discriminatory in nature in order to protect the Jewish nature of the state of Israel. And but it also said to the Arab citizens, you're not part of the solution. It means that Palestine is not going to come to Nazareth or to Haifa. Palestine, at the best case scenario, is going to be in the West Bank and Gaza on the Green Line borders. And as such, the Arab citizens are going to be permanently citizens of the state of Israel. And many ask the question, okay, if we're going to be permanently citizens of the state of Israel, should our topic and our status be part of on the negotiations table? Should the Palestinian Authority negotiate on behalf of the Arab citizens in the negotiating table? Do we legitimize the discourse that the right wing in Israel has presented, for example, in the deal of the century, the Trump plan, which proposes Israel giving away some of the Arab towns and villages and moving them to future Palestinian state, towns that are adjacent to the Green Line, such as Bak al-Gharbiya, Taiba, Tira, al-Fahim. Those towns were proposed to be transferred to a future Palestinian mini-state by Trump. And not only that Rabin welcomed that and maybe induced that segment or presented that segment, but unfortunately also Benny Gantz, who was then the key leader of the center party, he also went to Trump and accepted that and did not argue it. So the partnership between the Arab citizens and the center left is still not complete to be able to maximize the potential of the political potential. We are slowly beginning to materialize the social, economic, employment potential. It's going in a very good pace, and we're seeing good successes. Still, some areas of failure, but we're moving in a relatively good direction there. The speed has to be probably doubled, and hopefully the new government is not going to eliminate the 550 economic plan, which allocates almost 30 billion shekels to the Arab communities, infrastructure and educational and municipal development. If they do that, then I think that the Arab citizens might actually become a party pooper and might start presenting their own agendas more on the Israeli arena, which will double the conflict. And instead of being only busy with trying to find a solution to the cross-border agreement, then the Arab citizens will be highlighting more social economic issues justifiably. People want to live in equality. People do not want to be treated as second-class citizens. But the more policies that marginalize Arab citizens and incite people, as we saw in the mixed cities in May, to go out for demonstrations whether the incitement came from some Arab radical leaders or from the supposedly going to become the Minister of Internal Security, Ben Gvir. Those incitements might happen more and more in the future. So finding the right formula between the center-left Israel and the Arab citizens, this is the only way to have a solid base of support for the peace camp to guarantee significant majority. But that peace camp needs to come without hesitation. The hesitation of Benny Gantz accepting Benjamin Netanyahu's proposal through the Trump deal what was a feeling of loss of confidence of Arab citizens by the Israeli center-left leadership. And that's what was the reason behind the drop in the elections between the last two elections from 64% to 44%. That was 5 seats that were dropped. And unfortunately, even now, in the last elections, when we bounced back, we were not able to catch up and organize well enough in a manner that brings back those 15 and potentially 19 seats. So when we talk about shared society, I will share with you just 2-3 projects I'm personally involved in. I see in the list of the 47 people on the call some names that are already friends of Givat Haviv also. But one of our major programs that we operate is cross-sector teachers program, where we place Jewish teachers in Arab schools and Arab teachers into Jewish schools, some on permanent basis, some on just a semester basis. And in 93% of the cases, this is the first Arab those Jewish kids meet, or the first Jew, or it is the first Jew that those Arab kids meet. And in 68% of those cases, we're talking about 68, the children change their perspective towards the other from negative to positive. So socialization through those kind of encounters, although it's not peer encounter, this is a teacher-student encounter. Those kind of encounters, if they're done professionally, they produce a reduction in racism, reduction in polarization, and development of positive perspectives about the other culture. We're trying to create more integration of Arab citizens in the highest industries in Israel, specifically in high-tech. We have a program called High-Tech Seeds. We identify Arab kids who are very good in mathematics in the 8th grade, and they start taking academic courses in computer science already from 9th grade. By the time they finish high school, they have 50% of their undergraduate degree, and in a year and a half later, they already have their undergraduate degree in computer science at age 19 and a half. Basically, we're trying to direct the best brains in the Arab community to the best industry, to the highest paying industry, and where the Israeli Jewish economy has also the biggest need, and create what I mentioned earlier and called the mutual interests theory, where the need of the Arab community for high-paying positions meets the need of the Jewish community, Jewish economy, for the brain power hidden in the Arab community, and have less people go to study, let's say, history or topics that are of social sciences, but actually of medical or biomedical or high-tech or finance studies that where the Israeli economy is actually developing right now. Another project I will also share with you, we just started a new, what I call island of success that we want to create, similar to the medical industry. So we started an art residency program, bringing 12 artists, 6 Jewish, 6 Arab, to spend 4 months on campus at Givat Haviva at a large mixed space, open space, where each one gets their corner and they work together and sleep in the same dormitories together. They produce art together. They exhibit their product together in Jewish and Arab towns. And the goal in the next 5 years is to have something like 500 to 600 new graduates from art schools that work together and develop this kind of relationship, and have that relationship actually be called a success of the island, as it happened in the medical industry. Another project that I will also end with it is a project called Children Teaching Children. We paired Jewish and Arab classrooms together for a period of at least 2 years, from 7th to 9th grade, usually 3 years, but some take it only for 2 years. And in these 2 years, they meet at least once every month for a shared study day. Sometimes it's once a week, and they study together history, they study together languages, they study civics and geography. And the idea is also to engage them in dialogue. The amazing power of this program is that it lasts. There's longevity in it. It lasts for almost 2 to 3 years. The same kids meet over and over again. Is it the best program there is? No, despite the fact that it won the UNESCO Prize for Peace Education, but it is giving an amazing results because we dare to also touch the issues of how do you teach history, how do you teach different narratives, and we try to teach the narratives through the personal stories and not just through the textbooks of the government, but the personal stories of the children. So if we have a child that their father or their parent was killed in a certain war, we ask them to bring materials about that war from their own personal narrative or their own side, the narrative of their own side. And we bring also the discussion, the narrative of the other side, and we start doing the learning together. The potential for the biggest growth, though, is in the educational field through the cross-sector teachers program. We just got approved exactly 2 days ago by the Ministry of Education to start this 1 semester exchange of teachers. We're starting it with 13 pairs of schools already this coming February, and hopefully we will jump to more than 100 schools every year. We'll add additional 100 schools to engage more out of the 4,800 schools, to engage more than just the 7 mixed schools, so that we have hundreds of schools that do exchange of teachers and hundreds of schools where the kids can get exposed to the other in flesh, that they can go through the personal encounter, that what we call social contact theory, humanize the other side, where we have a debate and discussion about the conflictual issues, but we also develop interdependency. The interdependency that can be created between Jewish and Arab citizens in Israel can provide the sense of potential trust, potential cooperation, that we're not destined to continue living in war, but we can create interdependency. Maybe it's not complete harmony at this stage, because harmony usually you start working on it post-conflict. We're not post-conflict yet, but in the meanwhile, we can expand those islands of success. I'll stop here, Jonathan, to allow some time for questions.
Thank you very much so far. I'm going to ask one question before moving to questions from the audience, and that's behalf of me and the board. A few years ago, I heard a lecture that you gave here in Toronto, and you made what I found to be a brilliant observation, which was that there's a kind of gap between the Arab citizens of Israel and Jewish citizens of Israel, where the Jews kind of expect the Arabs to show loyalty first before they get equality, while the Arabs expect to get equality first before they commit to loyalty. And you made the observation that unless each side drops the request or the demand for the other side to start and just start by themselves, so the Arabs will show more loyalty regardless of what they feel about equality, and the Jews will give more equality regardless of what they feel about loyalty. That's the only way to really make progress. So I thought this was brilliant, and for me it was an eye-opening observation. Can you elaborate a little bit about that?
Yes, I mean, let me backtrack a little bit. And when we talk about shared society, I mentioned the 3 theories about relationship between the 2 sides: the social contact, the narrative identity debate, or what we call dialogue, and the mutual interests, or the superordinate goal theory. This one package that deals with the relations between the 2 sides is one component. The second component is to work for equality. Many Israeli Jews think that the only thing you need to do is to focus on the good relations. Often they call it coexistence. Let's reach coexistence, and we can coexist even without having to work on equality. Most Arab citizens say, no, we're not willing to be engaged in coexistence and good relations when there is no equality. We don't want the coexistence between us to be similar to the coexistence between a horse and a rider, where one is riding the other, enjoying the ride, and one is being ridden and bearing the weight of the rider. Let's walk together. Either we both enjoy the ride, or we both pull the wagon ourselves. Now, what comes first? I think it's wrong to ask this question, despite the fact that the majority of Jews think that good relations need to come first, and the majority of Arabs think that equality needs to come first. In my view, these are two parallel tracks that need to be worked on at the same time. And that's why when you heard me speak about the projects at Givat Khalifa, we have programs of empowerment, economic empowerment, high-tech empowerment, finding jobs, directing Arab citizens and helping them to improve their quality of Hebrew so that they can go to Israeli universities and come back and start work within 3 months, and not go to a Palestinian university and come back and start work only 3 years later. And they lose 3 years of their income, and the state also loses 3 years of taxes and pays them welfare during this period. So we need to work on those two tracks, good relations and equality at the same time. Now, what do you expect from the majority towards the minority, and what do you expect from a minority towards the majority? I think that we have a problem in Israel that the Jews are the majority, but they still live with the mindset of a minority. And the Arab citizens are the minority, but they have the mindset of the majority. And they think they're part of the biggest Arab world, and as such, they can even put their finger in the eyes of the Israeli Jews and tease them and delegitimize them and act as if they're backed by 470 million Arabs in the world, which is not true. We have no backing. I don't recall any serious donation to a student to study in any of the Arab countries, even one scholarship, except from the King of Jordan. He gives 10 scholarships a year for 10 Arab students from Israel to study in Jordanian universities. Other than that, nothing happens in this regard. So the Arab citizens need to be able to talk not just Hebrew, but to be able to talk Jewish, to talk to the Jewish audience in a non-inflammatory way, in a way that increases their sense of safety and security and not increases their sense of insecurity. We need to act as the responsible adult in this relationship, because, as I said, the Israeli Jewish majority behaves in the mindset of a haunted minority, still bringing the fear and phobia from the Holocaust, and that they have not completed the project of the creation of a Jewish homeland. And as such, they want to take everything for themselves. And as such, justify discrimination in budgeting, discrimination in job opportunities, discrimination even against children who are 3 or 4 year olds by not giving an equal budget for daycare and for kindergartens. And the Jewish population has to behave much more responsibly and start to internalize the fact that they are the majority, and the majority cannot abuse its minority. There's a lot of abuse to the Arab citizens today. So that maturity process, one, I would call it some kind of sense of modesty in the discourse of the Arab citizens when they talk to the Jewish majority. They need to understand the needs of the Jewish majority and the Jewish National Homeland Project, but not on the expense of giving up their legitimacy as citizens. For example, the citizenship law prevents Arab citizens from naturalizing a spouse if that spouse is from Palestinian background, from the West Bank or Gaza, or Palestinian that lives in Canada. We cannot naturalize them and make them Israeli citizens. And the rationale of the Israeli Jews in this case, and that's why they accept it, and they keep, even Bennett Lapid government approved it, The rationale is that they're afraid of the demographic growth of Arab citizens. By the way, it's the biggest lie. The growth rate of Arab citizens in Israel is less than the growth rate of the Jewish citizens. Arab citizens are shrinking. The birth rate is 3.1% a year, while in the Jewish community, it's 3.2% a year. So the Arab community in Israel is shrinking in size, and there's no danger, as many Jews try to present, that there is a danger of takeover through birth rate in the Arab community. But that can, if we can want to think about practical solutions, Israel can allow in its immigration parallel to the Jewish immigration law, Aliyah laws, which grants immediate citizenship to any Jew that wants to come live in Israel. Arab citizens, I'm not talking about residents of East Jerusalem, but Arab citizens are only 17% of the Israel's population. If we get on a quota of 17% of immigration every year for personal matters, such as naturalizing a spouse, that will be a humane act towards the Arab citizens. That would be an act that respects the civil rights, the human rights of Arab citizens, and not step over the personal and human rights of that family to live together, just to protect the sense of superiority of the Jewish people in numbers in this case. So we can find working solutions through a quota that does not endanger the Jewish majority, but not have laws, as the case today, which forbids completely Arab citizens from being able to naturalize a spouse.
I'm going to thank you so much, Mohammed. I am going to step in. I'm Gabriella, National Chair of Canadian Friends of Peace Now, and I'm going to ask a few of the audience questions for you. And we do have a number of them in the meantime. So let's try to do our best and get through as many as we can. Some people have asked two questions, and I'm going to, so Alexander was our first person to ask a question, and I'm going to ask his second question. And perhaps you can sort of do this one briefly, and then we'll jump into another one. Can you comment on the geographical extent of your projects? Are all Israeli regions covered? He's talking about
yes, I mean, we are the cross-sector teachers program operates throughout all of the country. We have 1,100 Arab teachers in 1,100 Jewish schools, and there are 350 Jewish teachers in 350 Jewish schools. Northern district, southern district, even Jerusalem. We started in Jerusalem, some of the schools in Jerusalem, and the goal is to have in each one of the 4,800 schools in Israel to have two teachers from the other side at least, because we know that having one teacher only keeps that teacher in some kind of difficult situation of being the only one that has to create space for themselves and create only, that responsibility is only on the shoulders of that one person only. The Children Teaching Children program, this is in the Triangle area. The Triangle area is between Hadera and Al-Fahim. And in that area, that's where we have the 9 pairs of schools where the kids study once a month or once a week. It depends on the schools. They can have more engagement, so it could be once a week, or less engagement, and it could be once a month. That happens in that area. I mean, physical proximity is a must because you don't want to waste too much money also on transportation of children. And as I said, this program won us the UNESCO Prize for Peace Education. The other program, which is called Face to Face, and for this one we won the Tel Aviv University Prize of Innovation in Education. It's a program that also operates throughout the country. We get anywhere from Beersheba to Nahariya. This year, by the way, is an extremely interesting year for the face-to-face encounters. We have 3 times more demand from schools to conduct encounters between children than the year before. This is, it seems that the May 21 events stirred some kind of interest in the field. Much of that demand is coming from the mixed cities, such as Haifa, Lud, Ramle, Akko, and Jaffa. The mixed cities seem to realize that the separation that exists in between schools in those cities allows very fast escalation when the negative powers play the role, such as in May 21. And they are approaching us for more activities of this nature, but also face-to-face aims to towns that have proximity, so that the kids that come and engage in those programs, they are able to continue a personal relationship afterwards, and maybe they can meet in a nearby shop, or maybe can invite each other to a holiday, or invite each other to a birthday. But we want continuity without our engagement. And recently, the last year, we started putting a special impact on our social media educational engagement, using social media exactly as we do now with you through this briefing, but use the social media to reach out to more people. Last year, we reached 500,000 people. This year, we reached 4 million people, 8 times more engagements that we had in our social media program. And we're going to expand more of that in the next few years, because more people are interested in getting involved, even if it is only through social media.
Thank you very much, Mohammad. So we do have quite a few questions, and our time is going fast. So let's try to get through as many as we can. Barbara Landau of Dr. Barbara Landau of an organization called J-Link has asked a number. I'm going to just ask one of hers for you, and that is the one she's asking about the formation of or the attempt to form a party, a joint Jewish-Arab political party in Israel, and could you comment on that? And again, I'll ask you, make it, let's have it more questions if we can.
Yes. I'll just give you numbers. Before the last elections, 67% of Arab citizens, 67% said that they want the Arab parties to be part of a future coalition, but only 53% voted. So the number of people who are practical and want the Arab parties to be in the government is higher than the actual voters, which means that there is a segment of Arab citizens that do not find political parties that represent that will. They don't trust that the Arab political parties are going to get them what they want. So some went and voted maybe for Meretz or Labour Party. Now, but many chose to stay at home. And I think that Meretz proves today that it cannot pass the threshold. I mean, they did not. So the combination between maybe Meretz and a few other Jewish political forces with the Arab community, I think that might be able to add 6 to 8 seats into the center-left bloc, but it has to be a proper equality party, not a party of dominance of one group over the other. And that has been the failure of Meretz in its relationship with Arab citizens. That has been the failure of Hadash in its relationship in attracting Jewish voters. It has to be based on true equality in both representation and voting capacity and potential. And that's why it needs to be really designed by the right figures, the right people, but also the right messages that serve both interests.
Thank you. Okay, I hope we can get 2 more questions in at least. And I'm going to focus on audience rather than questions from our own board members to broaden this out. So I'd like to ask the one by Paul Milgram, who said, because it's actually one that I was wondering about. He says, do you have any ideas about how to overcome the inherent disparity between the populations as a consequence of nominally obligatory military service for Jewish Israelis only?
Well, that's first of all, let's get rid of the war project of the state of Israel, and then the military service will not have the same kind of status and significance in the eyes of Israeli Jews. So if Israel really accomplishes peace with the Palestinians and does not have to live at war with its immediate neighbors who are the extension, the ethnic national extension of the Arab citizens, then the issue of military service can become much more realistic and normal for Arab citizens to probably consider it. Second, I think that military service should probably provide immediate privileges to the people that do military service, either by paying them worthwhile salaries, something like minimum wage, instead of the 500 shekels that they get a month. And then that's the benefit that they get. But it shouldn't carry throughout their life. There are many Arab citizens that save life that do no less of a service. When we talk about the doctors, 23% of the doctors in Israeli hospitals are Arab citizens. These are doing at least as important of a service to Israeli society. And as such, I can count many, many more people, starting, but even with those that clean the garbage or those that do construction work, the heavy work, that by age 48, 49, almost 70% of them develop disability, physical disabilities. These are people that contribute a lot to society, and that military service should not be considered as a privileged service to society. Is it inherited? I think that the beneficiaries of the discrimination, the positive discrimination, which goes to the Jewish citizens for military service, will want to continue it and maintain it because it's beneficial. They get extra credits to go to university, they get extra scholarships, they get extra preference in jobs, they get extra preference in civil service, in appropriation of land to build on. I don't think they're going to give up those privileges. Now, we can develop probably an alternative social community service that might be able to, we can attach some privileges to that, but it should not be seen as second-class service. And as such, it needs to be done not only within the Arab community, but also cross-sector. I would like to see Arab citizens doing community service in their communities and in the Jewish communities, but I also want to see Jewish citizens doing community service in their own communities, but also cross the borders of their villages and go to do service in Arab towns and villages to try to enhance integration.
Great, thank you. Now, Marc-Alain Gromelin asks, while I believe that a two-state solution is the only reasonable one, it seems that fewer and fewer people support it or trust that it can happen. What can a plan B consist of? He's asking you that question. So,
well, plan B has to be, Mark, also plan B has to be a two-state solution. And even if it's a solution for 24 hours that announces the creation of a Palestinian state and engages immediately into some kind of a confederal relationship between that future Palestinian state and the state of Israel, because it's like negotiating a divorce, but a divorce with many, many children. So you need to keep a lot of doors open between the two sides of the house. And those interests are security interests. Those interests are economic interests. Those are environmental interests. The Palestinians need the Israeli employment market to be able to continue sending 150 to 200,000 Palestinians to work in Israel every day. Israel needs the Palestinian holy places if it wants to really develop prosperous tourism, international tourism. The Palestinians are the social home, the social link to the rest of the Arab world and the only people that can legitimize Israel in the Middle East. We saw that during the World Cup games in Qatar, how Israeli media was not that welcomed by the general public. They say, okay, the peace that you did with the Emiratis or with the Bahrainis or with the Jordanians or the Egyptians or the Moroccans, it's peace with the regimes, it's not peace with the people. People are very resentment to Israel because of its policy towards the Palestinians, because of the continued occupation, because it prevents the creation of the Palestinian state. The fact that it seems to be less feasible from the perspective that it's harder to accomplish does not make it less relevant. I think it's still the only relevant solution, where you divide the homeland into two political entities. Each serves as the ethnic national homeland of its people, but immediately engage in mutual cooperation to try to guarantee that peace continues between the people and not only between the regimes.
Thank you again. Well, it looks like we're almost at the end of our time. So, and I know you've just come back from a long trip. You so kindly agreed to be in this webinar despite jet lag, and it obviously didn't affect you at all. So I'm going to turn it over to our host, Jonathan Gendler, to close up and to thank you for your participation.
So before Jonathan says, I also want to thank you again and join Jonathan's original invitation for you to become supporters for the work of Peace Now, but also for the work of Givat Habiba. They are complementing approaches.
Thank you very much, Gabriela, for your help with question moderation. And unfortunately, our time is up. I mean, I could have easily stay another hour and listen to you, Mohammad, because what you say is really, really fascinating. And to me, a very promising approach for coexistence, equality, and peace between Israel and Palestine. I'd like to thank the audience as well, who everybody who showed up. Thank you very much. And I'd like to invite you again to visit our website, peacenowcanada.org, to learn more about our activities. And please consider another donation to us, because we entirely rely on your support. I'm going to end this today, and please stay tuned for additional events that are coming in the near future. Take care, be well, everybody, and see you again very soon.